Hello, everybody. This is Jacob Sapochnik, founder of the Enchanting Lawyer podcast. This is a place where we share information about marketing, leadership, and different kind of business strategy. We interview the top entrepreneurs, attorneys, and social media stars to bring you good value, our listeners. And today I have a very exciting and interesting guest, Kim Garst. Kim is a social media expert. She was just recently chosen and recognized as one of the top 50 influencers in social media by Forbes magazine. Kim has been in business since 1991, where she had her own company where she built a company providing web services and design and technology. And eventually she sold this company in 2007 as she became a new mother. And all the challenges of being a successful business person, she went through all this, and then she relaunched a social media company called Boom Social, which is a very, very active company in teaching people about social media, how to use it, and consulting. And Kim, I'm very excited and honored to have you here on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I'm excited to be here. I'm always open to sharing social media with anybody who will listen to me. So you're gonna get lots of great value, hopefully.
And Kim, there's one thing that as I was preparing to the show and just kind of getting some information about you, I learned that you actually wanted to be an attorney. Is that true?
And that is true. I was actually working as a paralegal when I got pregnant with my first child, and had just been accepted to law school when he was born. Mm-hmm. And that my world kind of shifted at that point. And that actually started me down the road to entrepreneurship, because I didn't want to, didn't want to leave my son in a daycare situation. So I started looking for alternatives, and that at the time led me to a very sparse internet. There wasn't a whole lot of information or training available 20 plus years ago online. So I'm pretty much self-taught. Everything I knew at the time, I laugh and tell people I couldn't even cut and paste when I started. Didn't know there was such a thing, honestly. So it's just funny to look back on where I started and then, where I am today. Obviously, it's like night and day.
So, your first company when you started, the technology company, was actually, was as a result of a need where you didn't really continue working in a firm and you had to find something to do that will bring money and allow you the freedom to take care of your child.
That is correct. And I started with design work, web design. Mm-hmm. That spawned several other businesses, because people would say, okay, well, now I have a website. How do the people see it? Which led to a hosting company. Ultimately, I started out, just subbing, basically being a reseller for a web hosting company. And ultimately I was like, well, why am I giving them all my money? I'll just start my own. So I did that. And then everybody was like, well, I've got a website. How do I market this website? And that was honestly really where the light bulb went on for me, because I realized that the knowledge that I had was more valuable than the services that I was selling. So, I started consulting and, sharing with people how they could market their businesses. Back in the day, you were doing banner ads and, even what's today called spam. There was a huge email marketing segment, during the course of a period of time during, that growth period of the internet. So there was lots of ways that people marketed that, just aren't this. You just don't do anymore. You don't leverage the massive email campaigns, and most people don't pay attention to banner ads anymore, right? So, but that was a part of my model at one time, and it's just, again, goes back to that evolution of watching how things have changed, and how people engage and buy online today is very different than when 15, 20 years ago, you could put up a website and say, I'm selling a widget, and people would buy it. And you can't do that today. It's totally different.
Right, of course. Things have changed, and I think that, when you sold your company, you want to basically get back to the family, but then you started Boom Social. What made you think about that you want to get back into business, and why this particular business?
Well, it was kind of funny because I basically, before even I started Boom Social, I had begun to get back into marketing online through. I had kept a few clients, just personal. Because we had personal relationships and that kind of thing, and so I'd kept a few clients over the time that technically I wasn't in business. And then, so I'd gotten back into things, and people were saying, well, how are you connecting? How are you getting clients? And I'm like, I have been doing social media since before it was social media. And so when social media landed, and really started to take off, I'm like, this is exactly what I've been doing all these years, except in a different format. So like back in the day, it was B2B boards and AOL business chat rooms. And, then Facebook, I never was on MySpace at the time, but, and I remember distinctly saying I would never be on Facebook because I thought it was like a lot of people did at the time. I thought it was just kids. It was like a MySpace thing. And so, but then when I took a look at it, I was like, man, this is like amazing. The connections and the opportunity to, build relationships with people. Was much more streamlined and easier to, reach out to people. Right. So it just seemed like a natural progression. Plus, the big thing, though, that really, it's great. Social media is a great medium, but ultimately, it's about creating business with it. And that's what I saw. I saw an opportunity, just like when I started in the web design business. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, you have to have a website in 5 years you'll be out of business. And I heard those exact same words as it related to social media. If you're not on social media, then you'll be out of business in 5 years.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I've got to jump on this. So here we are.
And to me, it's interesting that you are one of the few people that kind of look at it and see it as a business, because everybody is doing it or trying to do it or teach people how to do it, but they don't see the end result. The end result is you have to pay the bills, and you have it's a business. It's not just I'm there and taking pictures and conferences.
It is absolutely a business. It's great that that's one of the things I'm constantly telling people is, even with the trainings that we do, whether it's for a business or whether it's for, an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or a mompreneur, whoever needs to learn how to use social media. We're not about just the mechanics of social media, because everybody teaches the mechanics. I mean, you can go get a YouTube video and find out how to post on Facebook. But what's how do you make money? How do you develop strategies to leverage social media to actually create sales for your business? And I think that is the one thing that we really, really try to stand on is, it's not just about, getting out there and hoping something sticks. There is a process to it. There is a set of strategies that work and some that don't, that people still use, obviously, but, lots of times they don't know any better.
And Kim, I want to ask you what exactly Social Boom does, your company Boom Social does. And the reason I want to ask that question is because a lot of our audience are professionals, attorneys, CPAs, people that are struggling sometimes with this medium because they don't understand how they can use it to take their business to the next level. And they often hire professionals that are offering these services. I can tell you that in my capacity as an attorney, I get every day at least 30 emails from SEO companies, from social media professionals that are sending me emails saying, we'll help you be on the first page of Google. We'll get you 1,000 likes, but I want to understand what you do and how you help clients and then we'll go into the other questions of exactly what social media is about and how you can make it work.
Basically, at the core of it, when somebody asks me, what we do, essentially is social selling made simple. That's kind of our motto around here, and something we're actually trying to streamline our messaging a little bit to create that message across our social platforms and on our website. But at the core of it, we're about the business side of social media. And teaching people the strategies that actually work to create business, or not just from a sales perspective, but because it's bigger than just that. It's branding, it's making sure you have consistent branding, consistent message. It's basically a conglomerate of things. But at the core of it, we're about social selling.
Right. And so you consult clients and you help them, get started in social, or actually help them improve what they do.
Yes, correct. So, say for example, a mid-sized corporation comes to us, or, a small law, we'll just use a small law firm, for example. We would evaluate what their goal is, what is it that they want from social media, because so many times people say, well, all I want from social media is more business. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not quantifiable. You have to develop, in other words, how much more business, and, in what timeline. And then let's say, okay, that's great. Let's develop some strategies to meet those goals. And then we dissect the whole, their whole presence, from their website to their email marketing to, do they have a list? Their social platforms. It's all tied together.
Perfect. So I wanted to ask you this question. What does it mean to you, or if you want to explain to a client, to build an audience on social media? And that's the first part of the question. And then how do you do it?
Well, I'd like to make a distinction between the concept of an audience and the concept of a community. An audience, you may say, well, that's just a semantics, and in some ways it kind of is. But I think the term community to me is a little bit more intimate, and that means you have to engage, I think, more. You can build an audience, you can even target it, you can even serve it. But if you don't really engage with them and, build relationships with them, then that's the difference, in my opinion, between an audience and a community. When you actually engage and communicate and make those people feel like you are there to serve them, you care about them, you honor the fact that they pay attention to you and your business with their time and their money, then I think that builds a community of long-term buyers.
Right. So the distinction that you just made is very crucial, because I think typically when you're dealing with people who are in the service business, we don't have the concept of community, because we're used to paying people to push our content. If it's a Yellow Pages ad, if it's a TV, radio, even Google ads, these are all things that we push out. But when you have a community, you have to be involved constantly to nurture these people so they continue to trust you. And I think, I'm telling you that from things that we've done as a law firm, but I'm just curious to know, what are the things that people can do, first of all, to build that community and continue to get them engaged with you?
Well, there's several things, but at the core of it, honestly, if somebody talks to you in person, you don't turn your back and walk the other direction, do you?
Of course not.
And I see so many people do exactly that on social media. They get started, they push their message, they push their agenda. Even in some cases, they think they're doing it right. They're giving some value here and there, but they ignore people. They ignore them. If they ask a question, sometimes they'll engage, but they don't really get out there and say, like for example, I'll use an example that I use quite frequently on Twitter. People will retweet my content, and I have 260 some 1,000 Twitter followers now. And yet I still, to this day, make an opportunity to thank people who honor me with their time and attention by retweeting my content. Right. Yes, it is time consuming, absolutely. And not only do I do that, but I try to engage them. So say, for example, somebody retweets my content and I'll say, well, thank you, appreciate it, whatever the verbiage is. And then I ask them an open-ended question so that I have an opportunity to start a conversation with them. How's your day going? What's happening? You got big plans for the weekend, whatever it is. And it's amazing how many relationships that you can, it's just like, in other words, it's just like real life. When you talk to people in real life, and you're trying to, value and build a relationships with people, sometimes even on a surface level, you still hold a conversation with them. And I think that's the missing piece of actually building community over an audience, is the talking, the engaging, the actual relationships that you form.
Right. And I'm happy that you mentioned Twitter, because I was going to go and go move there as well, as we continue with our discussion. But I think that especially when somebody's trying to build a social media presence, people are often confused where they should start. And people are always getting advice saying, you should start with one platform and then only then move to the other. And I think what you're saying is that it depends on your business, it depends on your personality, that some people may feel more comfortable using Twitter. Just like you said, you're going to start pushing content, and then people are going to retweet it, you're going to engage with them, you're going to search for conversations, and you don't want to be necessarily in the center of a community because you're not that kind of person. Others feel more comfortable to be in the center, so they want to be visual, they want to share what they do at home, what they do at the office, and get more people to comment, so they build this little community. So do you think that there should be a distinction, or you should kind of go at it as a joint force?
Well, you can't do it all, in my opinion, especially when you first get started. So my recommendation usually is, social media is intricately tied together. It's if you build a digital platform, it's circular, in my opinion. Sometimes you'll connect with the same people on Facebook that you connect with on Twitter. Sometimes you'll find them on Instagram. Sometimes there's people on Twitter that they would not be caught dead on Facebook. So it just depends on your business, and it does depend on your personality and and I think even bigger than, your personality, and how you want to engage, and deliver value to your audience. It's also about where is your ideal prospect or customer or client. Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? In almost every case, every client that we've ever dealt with I would say yes, their ideal client is in both places. Sometimes, you might make a case that, your ideal client might not be on Pinterest, for example, or your ideal client might not be on Instagram. But Facebook and Twitter are definitely core platforms. LinkedIn holds a lot of value, obviously, for your industry. So it depends, I think, on where is your prospect at, and then how do you deliver and be useful to that prospect so that they do connect with you and you have an opportunity to build a relationship with them that will result in a sale. Right.
So it's all a question of planning things like that. But I think biggest problem that people have when they especially with Facebook is if you have no audience, if you have nobody on the page, you're starting from zero. And how do you think, what is actually the best way to build the first 1,000 followers? Let's start with Facebook.
Well, with Facebook and where it's currently at, with their algorithm and all the changes that they've made recently, if you're just starting out, you're almost forced to, in my opinion, do some advertising on the front side, so that you can get, so that you can target. And the neat part about Facebook right now that I'm really enjoying and seeing a lot of return on is, as it relates to their ads anyway, is the targeted audience feature. So you can pull in, for example, you could build a target audience of your LinkedIn followers and target them on Facebook to get in front of them on Facebook and build out your fans, through previous connections that you've had. In other words, it's not like, they don't know you at all. They've at least seen you and connected with you over on LinkedIn. You can do the same for your website. You can do the same if you have a list, So there's lots of ways that you don't really have to start totally from scratch if you have a few core things, if you, like I say, if you have a list, if you have a LinkedIn connection database, which incidentally you can download and then just re-upload on Facebook as a custom audience. So if you're starting from scratch, I think you're going to probably have to do some advertising to get the quickest bump, on your fan page. But once you get a following, and you start consistently delivering value to those fans, I personally am totally killing it on Facebook right now by just delivering great content. Only time that I spend money personally on my fan page right now is for things that create income. Like if I'm trying to sell a course or a product of some sort. As it relates to likes and engagement, I'm doing all of that honestly on a massive scale, all for free. I just wrote an article on the Huffington Post about my results on my fan page. So I would love to share that with your audience at some point, because it is literally something I'm not seeing a lot of people do right now. And at the core of it is all content and engagement driven.
So if you want to maybe give us a few pointers from this article, and then of course we're going to link it in our show notes.
Sure.
That'll be great.
Well, one of the things that I am finding across the board is it all goes back to a great content strategy. And that's true whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever you are. Everybody talks about having a content plan for your blog, right? Yeah. But you actually need a content strategy and a plan for your social presences. And most people don't take the time to build that out. So, stepping back from it just for a second, think about what your ideal client, what do they care about outside of hiring you and paying for you or your product or your service? If many people have this very similar things. When you go to a social event and you're striking up a conversation with people, you find some commonality. You may have kids that play sports. You may be talking about the weather. You may be talking about the latest sporting event. Obviously the World Cup is big right now. In other words, what do people care about outside of your product or your service? And then build a content plan that weaves in your products and your services, but it's an 80-20 split. In other words, 80% is all about, connecting on a human level, whether that's humor, whether that's inspiration, motivation, news, blog articles, tip series, whatever it is, and then, weave in the fact that, hey, I've got a product over here, 20% of the time, you will get way bigger results than you do just constantly pushing the fact that you're in business. And, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if you don't connect with people on a human-to-human level, you're going to struggle.
So one of the things that, remember, I sent you an example of the post that I posted a couple of days ago during that match. And it was just crazy. Within an hour, we had more than, I think, 400 likes and shares that people were just sharing this soccer result, which had nothing to do with the legal field. But it definitely increased our engagement on the page. And as a result, I think people are going to see more of my posts for the next week at least, right?
Well,
So,
absolutely. And that's my point, I guess. At the core of it is just connect with people on a human basis. Well, not only, like for example, oh goodness, one of my most viral posts was something really simple. It
mhm.
was something to the effect, if I say hello, how many people will say hello back?
Yeah,
I mean, just something very simple, and yet it is a way to get people to engage with you, to connect with you, to start coming to your page more frequently, to start seeing your content more frequently. Sometimes it's as simple as, a few days ago I shared a bowl of ice cream. Do you remember the old dreamsicle?
yes, yes.
I was actually trying to create a dreamsicle.
Oh,
I
wow.
was doing orange sherbet and vanilla ice cream, and I just threw it out there. Okay. Well, it was amazing how many people connected around that. The people that remembered the dreamsicle, people that are like, well, wow, that's great. I've tried this. Have you tried that? So again, there's commonalities in life, and as human beings, we all eat, we all, we don't all have kids, but many people have kids, so that's a
Right.
common ground. Find that commonality, and around things that you care about, because ultimately you want people to connect, you want to do business with people who care about the same things that you care about, in many cases anyway. It's not always true, but in many cases, you'll find that your ideal client is somebody who has similar interests, and, that you like and you care about, and they'll be more likely to connect with you because they feel the same way you do.
Right. And those are things you can do for free just by, thinking about some of these things that happen in the news and maybe creating a nice image with art and a quote that you can customize and then just kind of post it. And you may get some viral reaction that you cannot even reach by paying for it.
Absolutely. And then again, just go back to having a consistent strategy. So, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to kill it on Facebook and I'm going to post once a day. That's not going to work.
Right.
You have to have a consistent strategy. So, is that going to be, two or three, tips, or is that going to be two or three blog posts? Is that going to be, what is that going to be? And, have it varied. Make sure that you have a lot of, options for people to connect with you. And some people may love your blog post,
Hmm.
but some people may be like, well, that doesn't interest me. But yet they may love one of your inspirational posts, or maybe a
Right.
tip that you throw out there. So have variety. Much of what you do on social media social media is free, obviously, except for the time. The time that you put into it is actually the value piece that gets the results. Because I hear people say, well, I invest a lot of time in social media, so why am I not getting results? Probably because you aren't investing it in a way that is strategy based. Lots of times people just throw stuff out there and hope that something sticks, and they don't really have any organized strategy for their fan page or their Twitter account, or wherever they're trying to build business. It's usually just scattered,
Right.
and I think that's critical.
And I think that again, people are concerned about results, but I think that if they have a plan and follow that plan, I think they're going to start seeing results because you can't just be all over the place. It's not like you're shooting in the dark. And Kim, you mentioned something about posts, and people have different opinions about that. What do you think is the good amount of posts you should do daily on Facebook?
Well, I actually do have a very different approach to this. I've heard people say, well, you can post once a day or once a week, and you shouldn't post any more than that. And
Right.
I'm here to tell you guys that is absolute baloney,
Hmm.
because the way Facebook operates now, your content, it used to be about 1 in 6 of your post was being shown to your fan base. Now it's closer to 1 out of 16 of your posts are being shown to your fans. So with that mentality, or that, keeping that in mind, if you're posting once a day, nobody's seeing your content. I mean,
Right.
if you've got a handful of fans, and then 1 out of 16 of them are seeing that post, then the reality is, that you're just not getting seen. So I think that you have to post fairly frequently on your fan page to get your content back into the news feeds. And if you're stale, stagnant right now, and you're struggling with that concept, then that means you may have to do some additional strategies to get your content back in the news feed of your fans. But I personally post, and I post probably 8 to 10 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the average business owner has to, they're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do that much. So don't panic. I think on average, what I usually recommend is anywhere from 6 to 8 times a day in order to get good, consistent engagement, as long as, again, you are engaging with your audience. The neat part about, like, say, for example, you put out a post and you start getting comments on it. Respond to those comments, because every time you comment back to somebody and you're actually holding a conversation, that throws your content back into the newsfeed.
Right. And I think people forget about that because,
Yes.
even on our page, sometimes I miss some of these comments because they come out at different times of the day. But I think it's very important to track that, because every time you respond, again, it comes back, and we do. I don't know if you do it on your page, but we have this thing where we do a monthly chat where I do it on. I put a picture with the announcement on the chat, and I ask people to post in the comments the questions the whole day. And we'll go back every hour and answer questions all day until the end of the day. And I think that's been really huge in engagement. So that's another question I wanted to ask you, Kim. This is it's an event, so where we announce the chat. But there's also a way to create events in Facebook right now through their event system. What do you think is more effective in terms of creating engagement on the page?
I think if you have an engaged audience, and it sounds like you do, and then I would suggest just going directly to your page. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we have been very successful with is we have a Facebook Friday. Okay. Every Friday we host an opportunity for people to share their fan page. People go to those fan pages, like them, engage with them. So it's a way to build fans. It's a way to meet new people, network with people that ultimately you might, you may say, well, geez, I need that service. That guy's a plumber, or, that person does SEO. I just happen to need that. I'm looking for that person. So sometimes, people will find exactly what they need through the Facebook Fridays. It's also a great exposure for their business, a great way for them to build fans. And we do that right from within the fan page every day. And every Friday, it has grown tremendously from where we started, simply because people come back every week. And then they share it every week because they've gotten such great value from it. And I would predict that will be exactly what happens to your monthly event.
Right. But again, I think that those strategies are not really strategies. That this is actually something that we do because we want to give value to our people who come to the page. So it's not because, and I think that's really where maybe Facebook are trying to push their engagement. They want people to do it because they really provide value, not because they found a trick where they can find a way to get more people to like your page or come on the page. But eventually when they come to the page, they find nothing there.
Absolutely. It is all value-based out the gate. In other words, I think even though there's opportunities for you to, take advantage of the strategy that you put into place, at the core of it, the reason that you do whatever it is that you do needs to have a sense of pureness. It doesn't need to be about you. It needs to be about how do you serve your audience in a better way. And sometimes those, when you first start a new strategy, you'll be like, well, geez, that didn't work like I thought. Or, that didn't, like when we first started Facebook Friday, it was a small community, small turnout, and then it's grown and it continues to grow. But so sometimes a strategy doesn't always work the way you think it will, and you have to evaluate it. And then if it doesn't work, for a period of time, that's, it's not going to work. Maybe you tweak it, you try it again, maybe you do away with it and start something fresh. So, don't get discouraged. That's the one big thing about social media is it does take time. You can't just plop down on social media, start, creating content, throwing stuff out there, and expect massive return. It takes time because people don't trust like they used to. You have to build relationships. You have to build a core sense of value with your audience so that they do begin to trust you, that you're not just out there to, that you don't just see a dollar sign on their forehead, that it's not about you. It is about serving them.
Right, and I think no matter what platform you use, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus, it's all about the conversations, and you have to engage in conversations, really show people that you actually care about what they have to say, and just like you said, if somebody's posting and retweeting your tweet, you must take the time to at least acknowledge and say thank you for the if it takes even if half a sentence. I had a conversation with Ted Rubin the other day, and he was on the show, and he that's exactly what he advocates. He says, people forgot that there is social in the world, social media. The actual word social, nobody's being social anymore, which is kind of interesting.
Well, the thing about it is, I've talked to so many business owners, and they're like, well, I just don't have time for this relationship stuff. All I want is sales. But the reality is, if you do not take the time, it's like, for example, I'll tell us a quick story. There's two dry cleaners not far from my home. One is on the right side, going down the street, very easy to pull into. They even have a drive-through. And the one is catty corner across the street in a like a little strip mall.
Yep.
So a little harder to get to, not as convenient. And I had always gone to the one that was easy to get to. And they were very impersonal, never really thought so much about it. One day I happened to be across the street, and I walked into this other dry cleaners, went back to struck up a conversation with the lady, had a lovely conversation with her. When I went back to pick up my dry cleaning, she remembered our conversation. She remembered my name. She asked about my kids. And to this day, I go to that dry cleaners, even though they are not convenient and they cost me more to go there than the one, that's on the other side of the street. My point is, guys, people have become so disconnected that they are craving the personal connection with the people that they buy from. And, if those of you who are serious about building a business and leveraging social media have to bring that mentality back to your business. In other words, the customer service, the relationship-based, the value-based, the I'm here to serve that person mentality, so that you can create an opportunity for your business, because people are going to connect with those kind of people, the social people, the people who value them. And the brands and the business owners that are out there just, oh gosh, I don't have time for that. You're ultimately not going to be successful if you don't take time to talk to people.
Right. And I think this is a great message that you are sharing with our audience. And I was going to ask you to share one tip with us that people can take with them as they try to build their social presence. And I wanted to share something that I heard you say in a speech. And you talked about the fact that in social media right now, you have to show your humanity. You have to show that you're human. And without that, there's no way you can succeed. But what I take from this is that I think social media allows us to show people how we are human if we are. Because before that, it was very difficult to show that. Before that, we only had websites, we had advertising, we had all these things that we paid for to create. But now, if you have a Facebook page and people see how you are every day, they say, you know what, this guy is nice, I want to follow him, I want to be his client one day, and vice versa, right? So social media is a way for us to show how human we are. So I think that this is a great point that you made once. But if there's one tip that you want to share with our audience to be more successful in this media as we progress with all these new changes, what would it be?
I think it's just basically summing up what you just said is being real, being authentic, being you. You know, so many people try to separate their business from the personal side of, you know, whether it's them personally or their lives or their families. You know, it's a business, therefore I can't share the personal stuff. And the reality goes back to what I said before, in the sense that people want to connect. They want to see who you are personally. You know, they're looking for, people, in other words, people don't connect with your logo, guys. They connect with you as a person. And I think the human element, if there's one thing that you have to bring to your social media presences, I believe that's it. I think it's that human element. You know, Brian Kramer wrote a book not long ago about H2H versus B2B and B2C. Yeah. You know, it's being human, being approachable, connecting on that human level, and letting people see your life, or even the behind the scenes of your business. You know, make it real to where people can connect with you. It's so much easier than trying to be something or someone you aren't.
Very good. Thank you so much for this. I think this is the key to this whole thing that we're talking about, because if you don't have that embraced, there's no way you're going to be successful in that medium. Kim, if our audience, we're going to share your 9-point engagement strategy PDF in our show notes. This is a great report that you produce about how to get more engagement without paying for it, and we'll put it there. And if somebody wants to find you online, what's the best place? If you just verbally say it, and I'll put a link in our show notes.
Sure. Well, my website is boomsocial.net. And, of course, on all the social platforms, you can find me under Kim Garst.
Of course, you're everywhere, Kim. So
I
it's
am.
not going to be hard to find you. Very good. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming on our show. It was a true pleasure. And this is Jacob Sapochnik, enchantinglawyer.com. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about what Kim just said, you can email me at jacob@enchantinglawyer.com, and we'll respond to you in our comments as well.